This will be controversial, but I would say turn off the phone, get off of the
Yeah.
social media. It is the biggest source of stress in everybody's life. If you look at Gen A, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, it's the root cause of so many issues right now. And I think part of what happens is, and our brains have not been evolved to this point. Technology over the past 20 years has happened at such a fast rate that our brains have not been able to evolve to keep up with the demands that we are putting on it in terms of the amount of information that is coming into that we're exposed to. And then from a societal standpoint, we are also not accustomed to the amount of comparison.
This is Stressed. I'm Kirsten Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest. Hey, quick break. Are you feeling your age a little bit? Joints or maybe brittle hair or face, skin? One supplement can address all of that. It's collagen. And my favorite by far is Ancient Nutrition. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body, so we need it. And Ancient Nutrition is my favorite because it's made from real quality ingredients that I know that I can trust. In just 2 scoops of their multi-collagen protein, you are getting 20 grams of protein to help support your hair, your skin, your nails, your joints. And as an added bonus, you're also getting vitamin C and probiotics. That's for gut and digestive health support. It's the perfect addition to any beverage. You can put it in your shake and things like that, but also overnight oats, baked goods. But I put the unflavored multi-collagen protein in my black coffee every single morning. It's perfect because it mixes really easily and it's virtually tasteless. I especially also love their strawberry lemonade because it's very super refreshing in the summer, but whatever you need to get your collagen. Multi-collagen protein is more than just collagen. It's real results that you can see and feel from ingredients that you can trust. That's why I'm talking about it. Right now, you can get 25% off. You go to ancientnutrition.com and put in the code STRESSED25. That's STREST 25. Stressed25 at ancientnutrition.com. And that's going to get you 25% off site-wide. Make sure you grab my favorite for the dark coffee, which is your multi-collagen protein, but then also try something else as well. You're going to love it. That's Stressed25 for 25% off. Get your collagen. Dr. Brent Ridge is the co-founder of Beekman 1802. Ridge began his career as a physician at Mount Sinai in New York City and later launched the health and wellness division of Martha Stewart Omnimedia. Along with his partner, Josh Purcell, they founded Beekman 1802 in 2008 after purchasing a historic farm in Sharon Springs, New York. They started making goat milk, soaps, and cheeses. And today they have over 130 employees and many more goats and are recognized as one of the most successful lifestyle brands in America by NASDAQ, Inc. magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. Their beauty, home, and gourmet products are sold through premium retail partners around the globe, including Williams-Sonoma, Bloomingdale's, Anthropologie. In 2019, they set the record for the largest beauty brand launched in the combined 37-year history of both HSN and QVC, which is how we met. Today, they continue to supply one of the best clean beauty brands, all created with goat milk and kindness. It's time to welcome in an amazing doctor of longevity, Dr. Brent Ridge. Dr. Brent, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. It's like old friends meeting up.
It is. So a little background, we met through QVC. How many years have you been at QVC?
We've been on Q now for about 6 years, going into our 6th year on Q.
Okay, fantastic. So I've known you for 6 years and always loved working with the brand. One of the things that I always felt like I was missing on QVC was the ability to have you really deep dive into the science because you are a doctor.
That's right. And yes, and anyone who's familiar with QVC, you have six or 8 minutes to talk about a product. You just can't get through all of the details of the product. And yes, we've always been very science focused, but Josh doesn't let me nerd out too much. So I'm happy to have the chance to talk to you because I really love everything that you talk about in terms of wellness, both wellness to your body, to your mind, spirituality. I think it's all so important. It all works together in ways that I think people don't often understand, and you do a wonderful job of communicating that.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind. Yes, Beekman 1802 is one of the brands that I love working with because you are science and wellness based and kindness. Two of the most important things to me put together, and your products are just so good. I would love for you to give people kind of a background of how you got to where you are and who Josh is in case they don't know.
Sure, sure. So I'm Dr. Brent Ridge, and as Kirsten said, my specialty in medicine was longevity and aging. And I went to medical school in North Carolina at the UNC Chapel Hill, and then had moved to New York City to do my medical residency at Columbia University, which is where I happened to meet Josh, who would become my husband and then ultimately my business partner in Beekman 1802. And after finishing up my medical training, I was at Harvard for a while doing some research with a fellowship with the American Federation of Aging Research. And we were looking at the genetics of longevity, and then joined faculty at Mount Sinai School of Medicine, where I was teaching medical students and seeing patients for a while. Then went back to business school, and we can dive into that story if you want to, and wound up at Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia, where I was charged with creating a new division of the company devoted to health and wellness. And so we had a magazine that we were doing that was called Body and Soul, that then switched over to Whole Living. And I would appear on the Martha Stewart show doing her health segments along with her. And in 2006, we were driving in upstate New York on a weekend getaway from the city. And we came across this farm in Sharon Springs, New York, this very tiny town, 547 people, very agricultural. And on our drive back to the city, after we had picked all the apples in the village, we said, you know what, we should buy this farm that we saw this for sale sign on. We both grew up in very rural locations. You know, Josh was in Wisconsin, I was in North Carolina. We had always grown our own food, you know, with our families and big gardens and things like that. And we just had a hunger to get back to that after living in the city for, you know, over a decade. And so we cashed in everything that we had ever earned to that point in our life. We were both around 30 years old at that time. Took out $1 million mortgage to buy this farm property because
My goodness.
if any of your listeners were around in 2006, things were good. The economy was amazing. They were handing out these zero interest rate mortgages.
Yep.
And so we took one, and shortly after we closed the deal on the property, we came up one weekend from the city, and there was a note in our mailbox from a local farmer who was losing his farm. And he said, I grew up in Sharon Springs on a dairy farm. My family has always been in the dairy industry. And I now have a herd of 100 goats, and I'm losing my farm property. Could I please bring them to your property to graze? Otherwise, I will have to sell my herd. And again, at the time, we were still flying high on our big highfalutin jobs in the city. And we're like, this is amazing. Farmer John will be there. He can keep an eye on things, and, you know, he'll have a home for his goats. He won't have to sell his goats. And so it seemed like a win-win. We didn't know how big of a win-win it would be because in 2008, when the recession hit, partially because all of those 0% mortgages that had been handed
Yeah,
out,
I
uh,
remember.
yeah, we lost our jobs within a month of one another as the economy crashed. And we had to figure out how we were going to survive because we had this huge mortgage. We had no jobs. You know, if you were around at that time, the economy was so bad, particularly in New York City, you couldn't even see. You know, so many of your friends and colleagues were out of work too. You were like, I'm never going to get a job. So we were depressed for a couple of months, I will say, I'll be honest. And then we just looked at the things around us and said, okay, what assets do we have? And of course, Josh had worked in advertising. He was an amazing writer. So he had creativity. Farmer John had all the goats, and we had as much goat milk as we needed. And then I had my science background. And so we Googled, what can we make with goat milk? And one of the things that popped up was goat milk soap. And so we worked with a neighbor, a soap maker, Deb, and started making bars of goat milk soap. Now, goat milk soap has been used for thousands of years. People often have used it if they have really sensitive skin. And you can go to almost any farmer's market, in any country in the world, and someone will be selling goat milk soap. It's just very, very good for people with sensitive skin. And so we started making the bars of soap. And when we started getting the anecdotal reports back from people like, wow, this, I have eczema, or I have psoriasis, and my skin has always been problematic for me, and this really seems to be helping. Then I just really started researching, well, what could it be in the goat milk that could be so powerful and have such a great result for these people who have had problems with their skin for so many years of their life? And the first thing that we noticed when we started researching the goat milk was that the goat milk had the same pH as human skin. And that was a critical unlock, and something that a lot of people hadn't been talking about, because most of the farmers and small craftspeople who were making goat milk soap to sell at markets hadn't really approached it from a scientific standpoint. They were just approaching it because they had the milk and people liked the product, and that was great. And so that was the first unlock. And for me as a physician, 15 years ago, I already knew the importance of the skin barrier, because on the wards at Mount Sinai, a lot of the things that I would deal with were chronic wound healing. And so I knew how important the barrier of the skin was. And so that really, for the first couple of years of the company, we really focused just on educating people on how they cleanse their skin and why that was so important to skin health. And so for the first couple of years, that's all we made were the bars of soap. And then we got into a big retail account, Anthropology, not too far from your backyard is where they're based.
And a wonderful retail to get into.
Wonderful, amazing. And they were so supportive of us from the very beginning. It was them who really encouraged us to start going further and develop more products. So then we started working on lotions and bath soaks and things with the goat milk. But it wasn't until we launched on TV retail that we really had the financial resources to really invest in the goat milk research. And about the time that we launched on QVC, about 6 years ago, of course, QVC being the mammoth in the TV retail world, that we really had the resources to go hardcore into the science. And that really dovetailed at a time when there was a lot of new research coming out on skin microbiome, which was an area of skin research that really had not been developed. It's really hard to study the skin microbiome, and a lot of work had been done on the gut microbiome, as you are very familiar with. But the skin microbiome was and still is a relatively new area of study. But that really dovetailed to the same time when we were finally identifying every single component that is in goat milk, every nutrient component that is in goat milk, all the vitamins and the minerals and the oligosaccharides. And what we learned was that these oligosaccharides that are in goat milk, oligosaccharides are sugar, carbohydrate molecules. And what we realized was that, one, these oligosaccharides are very, very similar to the oligosaccharides that are in human milk. And these oligosaccharides serve as very good prebiotics to support the microbiome of the skin. And so when you're talking about the skin barrier is the home to the microbiome of the skin. And the microbiome is comprised of about 5,000 different organisms, bacteria, viruses, phages, fungi, yeast, that have evolved with humans as we've evolved. And they are critical to the functioning of how our skin works, how it controls inflammation, how it heals itself. The same way that the gut biome is so critical for internal inflammation control, the same thing happens on the surface of the skin. And so the oligosaccharides in goat milk are really, really good at supporting the microbiome of the skin. And so that really is the thrust of our research at Beekman and what we do when we're creating our products.
I wanted you to kind of give us the overview, and so everybody's heads are spinning, and then we're going to go back and we're going to double click. So let's start with the pH piece of it. I think it's something that it's becoming very well known. Oh, goat milk has the same pH as our skin, or it's the closest, right? What does that actually mean, doctor?
Yeah, because and again, it goes back to the microbiome. When we first started talking about pH, the study of the microbiome wasn't as developed as it is now. But what that means is when you disturb the pH of your skin, everything gets out of whack. Just like if the pH of your body is somehow disturbed, things internally get out of whack too. But when your pH of your skin gets out of whack, what happens is it starts this cascade of inflammation on the surface of the skin, partially propelled by the fact that the microbiome ecosystem is not in its healthiest environment. And so then you start this cascade of inflammation, and then everything starts to go wrong. And the reason that's really critical with when you're cleansing is almost every other cleanser on the market, unless they're specifically balancing the pH of the cleanser, almost every other cleanser on the market, whether it's a soap, bar soap, whether it's a liquid soap, when you cleanse with it, it is naturally disturbing the pH of your skin. And if you think about it, when you're cleansing your skin more than any other thing that you do on your skin, right? And it's 2-3 times a day sometimes. And if every time that you are cleansing, you are disturbing the pH of your skin, the barrier of your skin is going to be constantly disrupted. So even if you don't see redness or see a breakout or something happening, there's this subclinical inflammation that is happening in your skin that is going to contribute to how well your skin ages, tears in your skin, how well your skin heals. And even more importantly, is the inflammation that starts on the surface of your skin makes its way throughout your entire body. So think about that. The way you cleanse your skin can be causing inflammation throughout your entire body. And inflammation in your body is critical to everything in your body, how your body is going to age, how your body is going to fight off infections. Are cancer cells going to develop in your body and your body's not going to be able to fight them because it's trying to fight all of this subclinical inflammation that's going on in your body? So it's so critical. So people often think skincare is frivolous or indulgent, but the way you take care of your skin contributes to the health of your entire body.
It's kind of, I think that we're a little bit further ahead in the oral microbiome. People understand that, how I take care of my oral health infects my entire body. In fact, when a woman is pregnant, they'll tell her, make sure you're flossing. And now, with the help of doctors like you, we're learning the same can be said for the inflammation that happens in your skin.
100%. As you know, from all that you talk about with the oral probiotics and the microbiome of the gut, if you have a healthy gut, you will have healthier skin. And it's because there is what's called the gut skin microbiome axis, where the microbes that are inside internally are communicating with the microbes that are on the surface of your skin. And now there's even research that are looking at the gut skin brain axis, where the microbiomes in the gut and the skin are also communicating to microbes that interact in the brain. They're what control the entire body. People don't realize that of all the cells that make up the human body, most of them are microbes. They're not human cells, it's these microbes. And that's why I often call them the God particles, because those tiny microbes control everything. They're the communication system in our body. And if you look at the world at large, microbes are the thing that control the function of the entire world. I mean, if you just even go back to COVID, right? One single microorganism, this virus, shut down the world, right? That's how powerful microorganisms are. If you look at the soil, nothing grows without microorganisms. If you look at the climate, nothing functions if the microorganisms in the climate are out of whack. So people don't realize how important these micro ecosystems truly are at everything that we know as living.
So I know that you started kind of a partnership with the goats. I'll call it that. A partnership with the goats. I don't want to say using the goats. You're partnering with the goats because you give them an amazing life as well.
Yes, yes.
But somebody might ask, well, why can't it just be the same thing with cows?
Well, I will say you can make products with cows, and there have been quite a few studies on cow milk too, particularly cow milk colostrum.
Which was interesting you say that, because I was going to ask that question too, which I'd love you to talk. Is there goat milk colostrum? But go.
For sure. Yeah, and we can get to that. Remind me to come back to it. So you can. But going back to what I said about the oligosaccharides, if you look at the oligosaccharides in goat milk, they are almost identical to the oligosaccharides in human milk. So human milk and goat milk are very, very similar, which I think is why goat milk is better for use when you're making skincare products and even internal ingestion. A lot of times when babies can't tolerate mother milk, the doctor will say, give the baby goat milk. And that has historically been the case a long time, centuries. Babies could be raised on goat milk. It was only recently when someone was doing the research and they compared the oligosaccharides in the goat milk and human milk and saw that they were very close. And that's why babies can tolerate goat milk very easily. And going back to what you were saying about the gut microbiome, I want to get to that too, but something else crossed my mind. A lot of people's introduction to probiotics comes from yogurt, right? They eat yogurt. Maybe they've been on a course of antibiotics and they have to take yogurt to repopulate their, the gut microbiome, or maybe they've just started eating yogurt because they want to improve their gut health. But those live probiotics, right? Every time you're reading the back of a good yogurt, it'll say however many colony forming units of these, this particular strain in there. The reason that those bacteria can live in the yogurt is because they are feeding off of the oligosaccharides from the dairy. And that's what allows them to be alive until you eat them to get them inside your gut. So when we're talking about the oligosaccharides in the goat milk, when you put it on the skin, the same thing is happening. You are feeding those organisms on your skin the oligosaccharides from the goat milk. And so when I say prebiotic, that means that you are providing the nutrients to the live probiotics that are inherently on your skin that are important for the health of your skin.
Wow. It's a lot of science right there, doctor.
It's too much. I know. Sorry.
No,
Stop me
it's
if it's
not
too
too
much.
much. It's great. So just anecdotally, and I know I've talked about this on Q before, I used to be like, cheese and coffee, those were my things. And I've noticed as I've aged, but honestly, as I've cleaned up my diet and then went back to school for health and things like that, I can't really tolerate cow, but I can tolerate goat. I can have
That's
goat
right.
milk in my smoothies. I can have goat cheese and it won't make me break out. So
And
to your
again,
point, the ingestion part as well.
correct, because it is more similar to human milk, and your body not only produces human milk, most people are raised on human milk, for the first portions of their life.
So that leads me to that colostrum question, because colostrum is getting a lot of attention these days. I actually did some blood tests and they said you should be on colostrum. Is there goat milk colostrum and is it
There
beneficial?
is. It absolutely is. And for the same reason that cow milk colostrum is beneficial. Colostrum, for those of you who don't know, is the first milk that a new mother of any mammalian species, humans too, the first milk that a new mother produces is called colostrum. And the reason it is distinct from the milk that will come later, a few weeks later, is because it is so packed with growth factors and immunoglobulins and things that the newborn really needs to start to thrive from the get-go. And almost all mammalian species will produce more colostrum than they need for their babies. Outside of humans, most species, their offspring get up and going pretty quickly. Like even the baby goats, like they're up and, walking within hours, and then they're on to, solid food pretty quickly in a few weeks. Like, so all new moms produce an abundance of colostrum. So if you are thinking of using colostrum orally, you don't have to worry that you're stealing from the babies, because I often hear that concern, because all new moms, there's an abundance of the colostrum. But yes, colostrum is packed with all these immunoglobulins and growth factors. And those immunoglobulins are part, of the immune system. And particularly if you have inflammatory processes going on in your body, having those extra immunoglobulins can be really a powerful supplement for you.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so necessary? So you're in longevity. I kind of it's part of what I love about you is that you started as a doctor of longevity and aging, and now you're into skincare. How are the two connected? And you talked about it a little bit with the inflammation factor. Dive into that some more.
That is, that's how everything is connected. And, when we talk about longevity and aging, I have always said, I remember my very first conversation when I was talking to Martha for the first time, Martha Stewart.
Talk about aging well.
Talking about aging, really, I mean, she's amazing. She is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. But she was asking, well, how do people age better and whatnot? And I said, listen, better aging begins at birth, even before birth, like when you're in the womb. All
Hmm.
the decisions that the mother who was carrying you made in terms of what she was eating, what she was doing, are going to contribute to how well you were born. And then every subsequent decision from the moment that you were born contributes to how well you're going to age. And that's from the type of diet, the environment that you're in, the type of products that you use on your skin, the clothes that you wear, the chemicals that are on your clothes, the type of job that you choose, the type of friends that you have. All of these things throughout your life contribute to better aging. I think in our culture, we have gotten to a point before, it's changing a little bit now, where people thought, well, aging starts at 50 or aging starts at 65. And there are certain physiological things that happen as you get older. Your body just changes. But aging really does start from the beginning. And it really all goes back to inflammatory processes in the body. And so much of what we do, particularly in Western culture, the foods that we eat, the products that we use, like we are a culture of chemicals. And chemicals can be good too, but a lot of the chemicals that we expose ourselves to are not good. They are pro-inflammatory. And we just age ourselves prematurely starting from the time we come out of the womb. And so that's really how the things are connected. And then again, when I was on the medical wards at Mount Sinai, so much of what I was doing was chronic wound healing. And then also a lot of times people find themselves in the hospital because they have a serious infection and you're having to hit them with really hard antibiotics, often intravenously. And anytime you hit someone with really hard antibiotics, you are completely wiping out the microbiome, the internal microbiome, because you're killing everything, right? It's not just targeting the one organism that's causing this infection. You're taking away all of the good bacteria and organisms in the body too. So often after people have those courses of antibiotics, you have to repopulate the gut microbiome. And that's where my interest in microbiome came in. So how the skin heals. And then after a course of antibiotic, why repopulating the microbiome is so important for systemic health as we send the patient back out into the hospital. But really all comes down to inflammation. And, I would say probably not even 5 years ago, people weren't really talking about inflammation, you know,
Mm-mm.
because we are a culture that's always about treating the problem rather than preventing the problem. So our whole approach has been, okay, you have an inflammatory process. Here's the antibiotic for it. Like
Yeah.
that's just how our culture was. So we weren't thinking of prevention of or building up the resiliency of the body to help us fight off inflammation. And then stress too. I mean, we are a very stressful society,
Yes.
and stress weakens it causes this subclinical inflammation that we all deal with, and it just weakens our entire system.
So then I would venture to guess that you're not a doctor who is big on, at least for you and your family, antibiotics all the time.
Uh, in fact, in my entire life, I have only had one antibiotic, and it
It's
actually
impressive.
happened when I was a child. I was a premature baby, and I used to get chronic ear infections all the time. And my mom, and I was born in 1973, breastfeeding was not popularized then because, infant formulas had come out, and that was kind of the beginning of like processed food industry. And so new moms were often encouraged to do infant formula. So I think that was my prematurity, and the infant formula really led me to have these chronic ear infections. And so I would have antibiotics then, but from the time that I was, you know, a teen to now, I haven't had any antibiotics. I've never had a course of antibiotics.
How do you avoid that? There has to have been times when you got something, and most people will jump to antibiotics.
Yes, well, I try to be very healthy. I'm very conscious about my body and what I'm eating, what I'm putting on my body. So my body, I think, is naturally stronger at fighting off infections. You're going to be exposed to things all the time for sure. So I think my body is naturally better at fighting things off. And then I also am not quick to jump the gun and say, no, I have to have this treated now. I'm like, no, my body becomes stronger when I allow it to fight off the infection itself. And that's true because
So true.
we are survival of the fittest. So our bodies, if we are treating our bodies in a healthy way, they are trying to keep you in survival mode, right? So the way your body gets stronger is by saying, oh, this might be a new bacteria or it's a new virus that I've not seen before. And so if your body is healthy, it's going to rev up all of its systems. It's going to fight off that infection. And the great thing about our immune systems is then it remembers. So that then the next time you're exposed to that same organism, your body's like, I got this. I got it covered. Um, and so that's just how I approach life.
I think it's fantastic. We'll be right back. Don't go away. It's just getting good. On Stress, we talk a lot about supporting the systems in your life that hold you up, your habits, your routines, sleep, but that also includes your feet. Remember that song we used to sing, knee bone connected to the hip bone? That's not right, but you know where I'm going with this, right? It's all connected and it starts with your feet. And if you're like me, you probably sacrificed comfort to style more times than you can count. I was able to join Revitalign when I worked at QVC to create really, really great shoes, flip-flops, sandals for you for many years. And now they are a sponsor of Stressed. I love this brand. My entire family wears them. It's all about aligning your body from the ground up, literally, but also doing it with super cute styles. I wear them around the house, on long days of filming, even traveling, of course, down at the beach. And the difference is my body feels better at the end of the day. And that's what I want for you as well. Going into a new season, make sure you get yourself new good shoes. And we have a discount for you. Visit wacoshoecompany.com. That's WACO shoecompany.com and enter the code Kirsten, KERSTIN 20 for 20% off everything from really cute wedges to boots to sneakers. Get out there and get your sneakers. That's Waco Shoe Company, WACO shoecompany.com and put in the code Kirsten 20, KERSTIN 20. So you get 20% off and support yourself from the ground up. As a doctor, do you look at, and I know you don't practice now, but I mean for yourself and for others, do you look at blood test markers like a CRP1 on inflammation? Do you give any credence to those things?
I think they're very valuable information. And I think they are markers to say, oh, you do have inflammation. And maybe that's the cause of what's happening. So yes, I think that they are good as a marker to kind of assess your health. And I do think that there are good and bad things about the wellness industry as we see it now, in that it can get people, sometimes it can sell them products that they don't need, but it also makes people very conscientious about their bodies. And that as a physician, that's what I have always wanted, people to be more interested in how their bodies function. And because the more you know, the better you can do. And, it's always been so hard in Western medicine to talk about prevention
Yes.
because we are a quick fix society. And I think more and more people are starting to realize the power and the necessity of prevention. Because yes, we're always going to have a solution that's going to knock something out, if you get to that point. But you're going to be stronger physically if you're thinking preventatively and letting your body do the work for you.
And if you're stronger, if you're not just putting Band-Aids on things and you're being proactive and you're preventing the things, that ultimately leads to what we're looking for, which is a longer, more joyful life.
Yes, Kirsten. Okay. I know we're all over the place with this, but let's get back to kindness, okay? Because I want to talk about kindness. I want to talk about, I said at the beginning, right out of medical school, I had this fellowship, research fellowship at Harvard. And at the time, what the head researcher was trying to do, his name was Tom Pearls, was trying to find a genetic marker for longevity. And so we were we're actually using the database from the Mormon database, the Latter-day Saints, because they have always kept remarkable genealogies of all of the members of the religion. And so we were looking through all of this genealogy database and finding families in which there was extreme longevity. So where there were and these are going way back, into the 1800s, like where there were people even back into the 1800s living to the age of 100 or 90 or you passed 85. So we were trying to identify families that had two or at least two and hopefully three generations of longevity. And then we were doing genetic markers, looking for genetic markers. And ultimately, there were no genetic markers that were found.
Really? That's fascinating. I thought for sure there were like 5 or 6 different ones.
No. What they found, and this is what you're hearing a lot in the media in the last several years, is that the most significant contributor to how well we're going to age are all social factors, right?
Yes.
Are you an optimist? Can you recover mentally from setbacks? What is your social network like? Do you have friends? Like those things are more important. Now, why? Why are those things more important? And I think it comes back to kindness and how you interact with other people in your world. And that's not a soft thing. And when we talk about Beekman and what we do with the science of kindness, it's critical on so many levels because, I'll say this is the nice way to put it first. When someone gives you an act of kindness or you receive an act of kindness, you get that glowy feeling, right? It's like a heartwarming feeling when you give or receive kindness. And what causes that heartwarming feeling is this surge of natural chemicals in your body. So the serotonin in your body surges, the dopamine in your body surges, the amount of oxytocin in your body surges, and the amount of cortisol in your body drops. And that combination of chemical change in your body is what causes that glow. And that a combination of chemical changes in your body are actually changing your body on a cellular level and also impacting the microbiome of the body as well. So kindness is equally as important as a preventative measure, as diet, as exercise. How you treat other people and the kindness that you receive back. Actually, as this genetic study that I started on 20 years ago proved out, those things are even more powerful than genetics because of
This
what they're.
is like it. I day in and day out, I'm working with health coaching clients and I'm like, okay, so I want you to try apple cider vinegar and I want you to go for a walk. I literally should be saying, you need to go be kind to somebody. Like
Correct.
that's important.
It is, and that's why social networks and empathy are so important because that's the way you build your social network. Like you're not going to have a great social network within your family, within your coworkers, within your friend group, if you do not work on those emotional connections and you make those emotional connections by being empathetic. And that is the root of kindness.
I know you guys are fantastic at this. I mean, it's goat milk and kindness. We know Beekman 1802. Those are the things that come off of our lips when we talk about it. But in the world that we live in that seems increasingly unkind, I would think, and especially a company that is in the public eye, how do you stay kind in the face of unkindness?
Well, I will say this, kindness is hard work, right? Just
Mhm.
like eating your vegetables when you want to eat a pizza is
Yeah.
hard work. Just like going to the gym or doing a cold plunge, it's not always the most pleasant thing. It's hard work, and kindness also is hard work. You have to work at it. And I think, as you said, sometimes you may not feel like you're getting kindness, and you have to work harder to say, okay, I'm going to rise above it. I'm going to give kindness. It's work, just like any other preventative measure is work. And I think for us in particular, we go back to what is the root of kindness, and that is empathy. And what is empathy? And empathy literally means I am putting myself in someone else's shoes and I'm trying to see the world through the lens that they are seeing the world. So, like, I actually imagine myself going into that person's body and looking out at the world through their mind. And that's what you have to do. And that's why kindness is really hard because empathy is hard to see the world through someone's eyes. Why are they having the response that they're having? Why do they think the way that they think? What have they been exposed to in their lives that make them think a certain way? Because that's the only way, one, you're going to understand where they're coming from. And if you have a desire to change them or educate them or make them look at the world in a different way, you have to start by understanding how they got to look at the world in the way that they're looking at the world.
So true.
Yeah, so that's how we address that. We always try to say, okay, that this is an unkind thing that I'm sensing from this person. Why? Why?
Hmm.
Why are they seeing the world in that way? Or why are they having that reaction or that response?
It's great. Can you help people clear up clean beauty? I think that we first thought, okay, we have to be clean eating. And then it's like clean products around the house. Why is it so important? I know you've touched on it, but please talk more to have
Yeah.
clean beauty,
Yep. Well, clean beauty, there is no, universal definition of clean
which is
beauty.
kind of a problem, don't you think?
The way clean beauty came about was it was kind of an offshoot of the natural beauty movement where people were using botanicals and like, very, very natural products, which is kind of where we started with the goat milk. And then as retailers were trying to figure out new ways to talk about natural, then it kind of went into this idea of clean beauty. And it was Sephora actually who kind of led that charge. They were like, okay, we're going to create this category and it's going to be called clean beauty. And it was like really more of a marketing driven category. Yes, they saw that the consumer was interested in this idea and then they really like pushed it out there, this idea of clean beauty. And because Sephora is such an amazing communicators as a company, they just get, everybody started thinking about clean beauty. And so then every retailer was basically forced to say, okay, well, what's our definition of clean beauty? And I do think that it has gotten a little bit, or it's kind of subsided now, had gotten a little bit into fear mongering
Yeah.
with clean beauty. But if you go back to what we talked about earlier in terms of better aging begins at birth, and the fact that Western society is very chemical oriented, it had gotten to a point where we were exposing ourselves to a lot of unnecessary chemicals. A lot of times because using the chemicals made it cheaper and easier to manufacture the product. And of course, we're a capitalist society, so everyone is margin driven. So if there's a way to make a product that has a benefit and you can do it for cheaper because you're using a chemical, um, people are going to do that. Companies are going to do that. So we had, over time exposed ourselves to a lot of chemicals. And I would say that one particular product is not going to, be deleterious to your skin. But when you look at all of the chemicals that we have exposed ourselves to in our society,
Hmm.
it really does start to add up. So it's not just the chemicals in your skincare, it's the chemicals that are in the processed food, it's the chemicals that are in the home cleaning products, it's the chemicals in everything, right? And they really do start to add up. So the importance of clean beauty, I think, is that it is helping us in clean beauty and cleaning products and things like that, is it's just helping us eliminate some of the chemicals that we are exposed to. Because again, the chemicals that are in one product are not the culprit. It's the accumulation of
Right.
chemicals that we
It's
are
your chemical
surrounded with.
load.
Correct, the chemical load. And all of that leads to inflammation, right? All that chemical load is going to cause more inflammation because your body's not used to it. Our bodies did not evolve through time to be exposed to this many different types of chemicals. Like we just haven't.
Do you have like a do not fly list? Because as somebody who's in this space and trying to recommend, but then also use myself, the cleanest quality products, sometimes even I get confused. Oh, this is QVC clean beauty or this is Sephora clean beauty, but somebody will say no, but it has this chemical in it. Like,
Uh-huh.
what should people really be looking for as opposed to just relying on a specific one company to tell them what's clean?
Yeah, I would say start with the product or products that you use the most frequently,
Hmm.
right? Because it's very hard and super expensive if you're going to try to be like follow everybody's standard to make everything, buy only clean. It's like buying only organic. Like it becomes very cost prohibitive. So start with the products that you use the most often, and then go to those companies' direct websites and see why they make the decisions about their formulations, and present that information and choose that. But start with the things that you are most in contact every single day. And that's why for us at Beekman, we think that the way you cleanse your body is so important, because you are doing that multiple times every single day. So that's very important to us. And I think that's probably in my life the most important thing to me, like how I cleanse my body and also how I cleanse my clothing, because you're in your bed sheets and your towels and the things you wear, that's laying against your skin all the time. And that's why we always say the way you clean your clothes is skincare, because the chemicals in your laundry detergent are laying against your skin all the time. So that's my particular focus. And of course, my diet, but we grow a lot of our own food here on the farm. So I know, we eat pretty much whole foods all the time. So yeah, that's my particular consideration.
So I'd love to ask you those questions. What are you doing to keep down your inflammation and improve your longevity?
Well, again, social connections. I'm all about the social connections, and putting the kindness out into the world. Every time I'm, on QVC or here with you, like I'm hoping I'm putting kindness out into the world, because then that comes back to me, and I think that makes me healthier.
You are.
Thank you. So I think that's the primary thing, and then I always think about diversity in anything, right? Because we are in ecosystems, and ecosystems have to be balanced, and ecosystems are not when one thing is super powerful. When something gets out of balance, the ecosystem gets out of balance, that's when everything goes awry. And that's why the microbiome has to be balanced, both internally and externally. And our environments need to have an amount of balance as well. So I just try to find balance in everything. And when it comes to my personal diet, for instance, we eat, as I said, pretty much things that we grow on the farm, but that doesn't mean I don't sometimes have something indulgent, like a glass of wine or dessert, or, something with a lot of processed sugar in it. But I also know that the majority of the time I'm eating very healthy, and my ecosystem of my body is very healthy. And so it can tolerate those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because life is for living. And sometimes, you have to indulge in things, and you just want your body to be able to handle those things when you indulge.
Yeah. It's a 90-10 rule or an 80-20 rule.
The 80-20 rule. I mean, everything is the 80-20 rule, right?
Isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Do you prescribe by a certain diet? Like, are you keto, carnivore, or mainly just whatever?
I eat everything, but again, I try to eat from the source. So yeah, we eat very little packaged food of any sort.
Good. Yeah.
And even like if we're doing a dessert that uses like processed sugar, it's a dessert that we made. Just not eating a lot of packaged foods, just because the processing of the packaged foods they're very pro-inflammatory. The preservatives, everything that goes into making a shelf-stable food it's problematic for our health.
If you can do whole foods from quality soil, if you can do, when you are looking at a package, less than 5 ingredients or 5 ingredients or less, and you understand those 5 ingredients, like they're
Yes.
whole foods or they're animal that you can
Uh-huh.
pronounce,
Yeah.
and 5 grams of sugar or less,
Yeah.
you're kind of on the right. I would assume your farm, given all the goats, you have pretty good quality soil.
Oh yeah. We're in upstate New York, and the soil where we are is glacial soil. So it's from the ice age. So the topsoil is amazing. And then of course we have enough goat poop to go around.
Great
So
fertilizers, right?
everything is fertilized with the muckings from the barn. And it's a lot of work, because we have to work in the garden, and then we preserve and we can and we jelly and we freeze and we dehydrate. Like, it's a lot of work. But we really, with our garden beds, we're able to feed ourselves for the majority of the year. And we are fortunate that we live in an area where there are lots of other local farms, so we can go to the farm next door and we can get beef, and we go to the farm down the road and we can get duck and chicken and,
Oh,
whatever.
it's so great.
Most places have farmers markets too,
They do.
where you can go, and it's more expensive for sure. But again, it's prevention. And just like I said, kindness takes work. Eating a good diet is worth the investment, because it's going to save you money in the long term if your health is better for the long term.
Buying those cleaner products, whether it comes to your skincare or your home care, same
Yep.
story there. But do you see, like, even in the work that you're doing, doctor, you're outside, your hands are in the soil, you're around other people, you're around animals, like that's a stress reliever in and of itself. which then helps with your longevity.
That's right. Nature is a stress reliever. And then also, there's this very well documented idea called the hygiene theory. And it was popularized from I think it was German physician, probably 50 years ago, looking at why children who grew up in rural areas were healthier than children who grew up in more industrialized areas. And the theory, which holds, is that their microbiome ecosystem is just so much healthier because they are exposed to the environment, the natural environment, in a way that suburban and urban children are not. And it just makes the body stronger. So yes, getting out there and digging in the dirt, getting dirty, splashing the
Absolutely.
mud puddle, like those are really, really important things.
Yeah, absolutely. What about supplements? We talked a little bit about colostrum and probiotics. Do you take any supplements?
Right now, the only supplement that I'm taking, and again, this is because I eat a very good diet.
Hmm.
The only thing that I take is magnesium,
Hmm.
and that's to help me sleep because I'm one of those people where my brain is like, kind of going all the time. So I take magnesium at nighttime, but otherwise I don't take any other supplements. The
Great.
issue with supplements is that they are micronutrients, right? And there have not been a tremendous number of studies about whether a particular micronutrient is going to have the same impact as it would have if it was part of a whole food, right?
Hmm.
So, and again, that kind of comes back to ecosystems and why things develop the way they do. Nutrients work in conjunction with one another. And when you take those whole nutrients into your body, the microbiome in your body responds to those whole nutrients in a way that's different from just taking a micronutrient of a particular vitamin or particular, mineral. So it's best to try to get all of your nutrients from good whole foods rather than supplements. And, people often think, oh, it's so expensive to eat like whole foods and natural foods and things that, are not processed. Supplements are expensive too. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now, that being said, if your doctor does blood work and says, you know what, you are calcium deficient, or you are vitamin D deficient, or you are vitamin B12 deficient, which I was at one point because I don't eat a lot of meat. And so I was vitamin B12 deficient. And I took for a period of time vitamin B12 supplement. If your doctor diagnoses you with a specific nutrient deficiency, then absolutely you should take the supplement. But as a par for the course, if you're eating good whole foods, you don't need to supplement.
And I want to point out that majority of the standard American diet, you aren't getting everything that you need because you don't live on a farm and you aren't growing your food in good quality soil. If you can buy from the farmer's market and maybe you go in with a neighbor on a cow, do those things, and you know where it came from and you know the quality of soil. That's the other problem. Our soil is so depleted that even if you're buying vegetables and eating vegetables from a grocery store, they don't have the same content, or they traveled for 3 days and you lost all the vitamin C. So somebody like Dr. Brent can do that. He cannot have supplements because of how he's eating, and a lot of other people can't.
That's true. And we have to be realistic about that too. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about with skincare. Like what's the biggest portion of your diet? And if you
Hmm.
are budgeting, and I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
we all are budgeting right now,
absolutely.
find the thing that you are consuming the most and dedicate yourself to buying the best version of that thing because that's going to have the most impact on your body because you're consuming it the most. So if your family drinks a lot of milk, well, make sure you're buying the very best milk that you can buy. Whatever it happens to be in your family, which is the most consumed thing in your family, spend your money, the extra bit of budget on that because that's going to have a bigger impact.
That's exactly how we ended up with chickens, doctor.
That's right.
It was it was during COVID. I was in school. I'm like, the exact same thing. If we're going to budget, what does my family eat the most of? We're going to go all in on that being the cleanest.
Uh-huh.
So lo and behold, now we have chickens and ducks, because then we learned duck eggs are even better.
Oh, duck eggs are amazing. Yeah. I mean, chickens, I mean, if you can have a couple of chickens, you will have more eggs than you can eat.
Yeah,
And
it's great.
eggs are just an amazing powerhouse nutrient.
Hmm. They really, really are. That's so funny. What's one thing that you think that everybody can do to help reduce stress in their lives?
This will be controversial, but I would
I love it.
say turn off the phone, get off of the
Yeah.
social media. It is the biggest source of stress in everybody's life. If you look at Gen A, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, it's the root cause of so many issues right now. And I think part of what happens is, and our brains have not been evolved to this point. Technology over the past 20 years has happened at such a fast rate that our brains have not been able to evolve to keep up with the demands that we are putting on it in terms of the amount of information that is coming into our brain that we're exposed to. And then from a societal standpoint, we are also not accustomed to the amount of comparison, right? So if up until probably even 25 years ago, the only people that you had to compare yourself to was the people in your community, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, yeah, in my community of, 1,000 people, there are going to be people who are successful, but the vast majority of people are going to be the same, like middle class people. But now when you go on social media, it seems like everybody's doing better than you, right? Because you're seeing bits and pieces of their life, but also you're seeing the whole world, right? We didn't have to compare ourselves to everybody in the world before. We were only comparing ourselves to this 1,000 people. And so you're now, and that's why I always say comparison is the thief of joy. It's also the thief of health because you are
Hmm.
constantly comparing yourself to everybody else in the world. And by the way, not their actual life, just the life that they're presenting.
Right. Their highlight
But
reel.
psychologically, that makes you always stressed out because you're like, I'm not earning as much as them. I'm not able to buy this vacation. I'm not able to buy this purse or this beauty product. And so you're just constantly stressed out because you feel like you are underperforming and you're not providing for your family the same thing that this person over here is providing for their family. And it just keeps you on this constant level of stress. And I mean, I know it's impossible to do these days because so much of our world is governed by social media. But the more that you can get off of social media and out into the real world, making real connections with people, the better your life will be and the better your health will be.
And you'll even feel it. I mean, I always talk about taking it one day a week, having a Sabbath day. And for some people, like just phones off of social media for that one day. You
Yep.
feel a difference, even if it's
Well,
one day a week.
you do, because otherwise you're just constantly stressed out about it. It just is so stressful.
Yeah, it is. Wow, we had a lot of topics.
I
Tell
know.
people,
We
tell
did.
people where they can find you, your products, all of this.
Yep. Well, our website is beekman1802.com. So you can always learn everything about our skin health products there. On social media, Josh and I are at Josh and Brent on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, whatever, Josh and Brent. Oh, and I should also mention, we do have a new book coming out that has nothing to do
Tell
with
me.
health, has nothing to do with health, unfortunately, but it's called Goat Wisdom.
I love it.
Greatest of all time wisdom. And we wrote it because it's a book on entrepreneurship that we did with Harvard Business Review. And the reason that we wrote it was because we truly do believe, as you know, community is so important. And the way that your business contributes to your community is so important. And the visual representation that we get of success so often on social media are tech billionaires or influencers who are like flying in a private jet or like that's the most often visualized version of success that we have now because of social media. And what we want to say is, you know what? You can have a very, very successful business from Main Street, you know, and you don't even have to go to college. You can start a business that meets the needs of the people in your community and be phenomenally successful as you need for your family. And the backbone of the American economy are not these tech billionaires or influencers. The backbone of the American economy are small businesses in towns all across America. And so we wanted to, one, write a book that highlighted the fact that small business is the backbone of the American economy, but also for all of those people who have a dream, they want to start that type of business on Main Street. We wanted to give them all the tools that they needed um, by what we learned growing Beekman 1802. And so that's what we did. So all the stories that you know and love about Beekman 1802 over the past 16 years, now they're all in one book. So you can see all those stories. It goes behind the scenes, but it also has really practical tips on, hey, here's how you can do what we did because we learned the lessons.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the very beginning of our conversation when you told your story and you were 30-year-old kids driving by and saying, "Hey, let's just buy a farm." I mean, I wanted to ask, is that genetic? Because most people wouldn't do that, wouldn't take that type of risk. So being able to have a book from the guys who did that and look what happened, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'll have to send you one. I think you'll enjoy
Yeah.
it.
I think I would too. I've thoroughly enjoyed you. Thank you for spending this hour with us and sharing your knowledge. And I love Beekman 1802. I love everything you're doing and spreading kindness. So thank you so much, Doc.
Thanks for all you do too.
Coming up on the next episode of Stress, we're going to talk about how breathing, not just any breathing, we're talking about detox breathing, and then also some other types of breath work that you can do throughout the day. And listen, this is not having to sit and think of nothing for 3 minutes. I know the monkey brain just doesn't let you do that. This is a different type of active breathing that can help eliminate trauma within your body. Did you know that the belly fat that you're carrying could be a result of trauma that you're carrying in your stomach? And breath work and bringing oxygen to our cells can help to heal that anxiety, any of the things that are plaguing you when it comes to your health and also mental health. This was a fascinating conversation with somebody who's worked with NASA and Nike and top Fortune 500 companies. We're going to breathe and we're going to do it the right way. That's coming up on the next episode of Stressed. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kirsten.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.kirsten-lindquist.com to sign up for our newsletter and receive exclusive content. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition. The host of this podcast is a certified health coach and medical researcher, not a licensed medical professional, and the content shared does not constitute medical advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we encourage you to do your own research and consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare treatment plans. Thank you for joining me on this journey to reduce stress and make room for rest. Remember, you're not alone. Keep coming back, share your story, ask for help, and give yourself grace.